I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
Curbfest. This is the second year that we're having it in Baltimore at NOMU. The second year that Sam is emceeing. Like Sam just mentioned, I am not one of the brainchildren, but I am one of the initial organizers for Curbfest. Myself and Yane and Russ and Ty and a bunch of us that came together and did this a few years ago in Philly, and it has spread ever since. It's been in Boston, it's been in New York, it's here again in Baltimore. We're really excited to have this event, especially this year, because we do want to raise the issue of political prisoners that exist, like Mumia, like Jamil Al-Amin, and others, Kamal Siddiqui and others, all of the more popular political prisoners that we may know. But as most of you know, they're thinking about bringing a cop city into Baltimore, and organizing against that means that all of us have the potential to become politicized prisoners. So we have to raise what it means to free them all, what it means to stand in solidarity, and why they are where they are, and how that could be any one of us, and why it's important that we join this fight. So again, I want to thank all of you for being out here, for coming out here. Enjoy the music. We have some bomb DJs. Please scan the barcodes that you're seeing, the QR codes, because they lead you to more information about political prisoners, how you can get in contact, how you can write. There's letter writing opportunities at each table, at each station. Please take advantage. We have free books. Thank you, Dr. Ball, so much for donating the books. Also to Books and Boutiques. So we out here in the street, y'all. We're taking over, so you want to hear the trains and all of that. But also Books and Boutiques and Liberation Through Reading. We have a children's table. You can color, you can paint. We have a lot of activities going on. And at 6:30, we'll be showing a documentary inside about the Pepsi 2. So if you can't stay, please come back around at 6:30 and come watch the documentary and be in support. Those elders who are political prisoners are in dire need right now, so we'll give more information on how you can phone zap in support of them. So please come back around. We'll have refreshments and all of that. But I'll end it here so that you can enjoy the rest. Thank you all.
Hey, thank you.
Peace, everyone. My name is Jake. I'm with the Baltimore branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. First, I want to thank the Black Lions for Peace for taking the initiative to bring us together. That's right, we can make some noise for the Black Lions for Peace. And to NOMU for hosting, and for all of the people here who work to make this a meaningful way to build unity and power to free our captured comrades. And if you all would allow me, I'd like to just add a little bit on why this struggle is so important. The state labels political prisoners as terrorists and murderers. We're told that they are a danger, and in one way, this is correct. These political prisoners are dangerous, but not to you or I, nor anyone suffering the exploitation and oppression necessary to maintain U.S. empire. Mumia Abu Jamal is not a danger to the people of Philly, but his journalism is a danger to the system that depends on the Philadelphia Police Department to conduct domestic warfare on Black Philadelphia and keep it quiet. Reverend Joy Powell is not a danger to the people of upstate New York, but the massive protests she organized are a danger to the system that empowers the Rochester Police Department to murder people having mental health crises. Leonard Peltier is not a danger to the people of the US, but his organizing for the self-determination of indigenous people is a threat to the settler colonial state that has lined its pockets with the blood and land of indigenous people for centuries. And Eddie Conway, may he rest in power, did not represent a danger to us here in Baltimore, but his organizing of his own community for genuine people power as a member of the Black Panthers, did pose a threat to the liberal establishment of Baltimore City. Collectively, these political prisoners, and political prisoners more broadly, are a threat to U.S. imperialism and colonialism, both domestically and abroad. And it might go without saying, but the state frames people it recognizes correctly as a threat to its power. In the case of Mumia, who was framed for the murder of a Philadelphia police officer, Veronica Jones was a witness who testified that she was coerced into changing her statement. which would have supported Mumia's innocence. And the only witness the state could find to testify against him was Cynthia White, someone who none of the other 5 witnesses reported seeing at the scene. In the case of Joy Powell, who was accused of burglary and assault, there was no DNA evidence linking her to the crime. She had an alibi, and the only evidence linking her to the crime was one accuser who later changed their statement. Of course, in all these cases, the Philadelphia, Rochester, and Baltimore police departments and the FBI are completely immune from accountability to the people. These actors are accountable only to the ruling class. They can and do frame people, they use excessive force, they shoot to kill, and they drop bombs. If they fail to quell an uprising or to protect the private property of a capitalist, they get fired. If they kill someone running away from them, they get paid vacation. This isn't an inconsistency, it's a crystal clear message that George Jackson made plain 50 years ago. Fascism is already here. But we can point out the injustice of imperialism, colonialism, and neocolonialism till we're blue in the face, but that won't do anything without power. And if we abandon our political prisoners, the captured soldiers and martyrs of the movement, not only are we failing to meet the most basic expectations of our comrades, but we are forfeiting a significant source of power. The political prisoners we're talking about today were targeted and framed due to their effectiveness as organizers and their unwillingness to accept their oppression as natural or inevitable. They are in prison because they were and are fighting for you and I. And so we're here, building consciousness and unity and power to free our captured comrades. Because if we are to stand a chance against an empire, even a crumbling one, we need all hands on deck, which means we have to free them all. If we are to win a world where the people of Baltimore have housing and health care rather than a $570 million police boot on our neck, we must free them all. If we are to win a world where Niger might have the self-determination to use its own resources as it sees fit, we must free them all. If we are to win a world where Haiti may enjoy the sovereignty it has been fighting for since 1791, we must free them all. If we are to win a world where Cuba is free from the genocidal sanctions of the US, we must free them all. If we are to win a world where AFRICOM, CARICOM, SOUTHCOM, all the other coms cease to exist, we must free them all. If we are to create a world where resources are put to the common good, we must free them all. If we are to win a world where the people are in power, the dictatorship of the proletariat, the unified Africa under scientific socialism, the land back, the decolonization, the reparations, the withering state, the livable future, we must free them all. If we are to win, period, and you all make me believe that we will, we simply must free them all. Thank you, everyone.
Set my people free.
Set my people free.
I'm letting my people know.
Letting my people know.
I love you like you were me.
I love you like you were me.
Okay, we're gonna try that again on beat. All right, on the 2 and the 4. Let my people go.
Let my people go.
Set my people free.
Set my people free.
I'm letting my people know.
I'm letting my people know.
I love you like you were me.
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 Get low. I love you like you were me. Look somebody in the eyes. I love you like you were me. Absolutely, absolutely. And so I want to introduce the Griot Trio into the building, into the sidewalk, into the space. Please give them some love.
Yeah.
Mic check. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Erin Naomi Reed. We're both 2/3 of the Griot Trio. I'm a youth tour guide at the National Great Blacks and Wax Museum and a professional storyteller. And this is my brother here.
My name is Alex. I am also a professional storyteller, and I have gone into the 9th grade this year.
Yes, you have. All right, so first off, we're going to be telling you a story called Carrying the Runaways. You know, I never thought of carrying the runaway slaves across the river. Even though I was right there on the plantation, right by that big river, it never got into my mind to do something like that. Until one day, a woman whose house I'd gone courting to had asked me to take this girl across the river. Well, I met her, and she was awful pretty. So I said I'd think about it. But each day, that woman or that girl would come around asking me to take her across the river. And so eventually I said yes. And soon enough, that woman was coming to me telling me how to get across the river, how to go, and when to leave. My master trusted me to come and go as I pleased, as long as I didn't try to learn how to read or write, because reading and writing was forbidden to slaves. I had heard about the other side of the river from other slaves, and I thought it was just like our side, with slaves and masters and overseers and the rawhide whips they'd use on us. I thought I'd land that girl over there, and some overseer that didn't know us would beat us for being out at night. They could do that, you know. Well, I did it. It was a long rowing in the cold with me worrying, but eventually I saw a light, way up high in the sky. And I remember the woman told me to look out for a light and to row to the light, so that's what I did. When we got there, 2 men reached into the boat and grabbed me and the girl. Then one of them said, "You bow hungry?" And if he hadn't been holding me, I would have fallen out that rowboat.
You see, it was funny, right? I never saw my passengers' faces again after that first girl, because I would always meet them in the night when the moon wasn't showing and it was cloudy. And I would always meet them in the open or in a dark house with no light. You see, if I couldn't see their faces, couldn't recognize them, couldn't describe them. You see, in Ripley, there was a man named Mr. Rankins. The rest was John, I think. And he had a station for escaping slaves. Ohio was a free state, I found out. So, once I got him across, Mr. Rankins would see to them. You see, Mr. Rankins had a light about 30 feet high up, and it meant freedom for any slave if they could just get to that bright light. I worked hard and almost got caught. I've been rowing fugitives across the water for almost 4 years, and it was in the year 1863, on the night I'd been rowing 12 fugitives across the water. And when I stepped back off the boat in Kentucky, they were after me. Slave catchers, didn't know them, were on my tail. I had to run away from the plantation and all I knew there. I lived in caves and trees, even in a hay pile. I couldn't get across the water now, I was watched so closely. Though, eventually, I did get across. Late one night, my wife and I went. You see, by this time, Mr. Rankins had him a bell along with the light. We could see that light and hear that bell, but never seemed like we're getting closer. It seemed like we would never get there. But that was only because it was so dark, and we were so scared, and we knew we could get caught and never get gone. We made it though. We made it to Ripley and went on to freedom. And it was only a few more months before all the slaves was free. We didn't stay on at Ripley though. We went to Detroit because I wasn't taking any chances. You know, I have children and grandchildren now. Well, the bigger ones don't care that much. But the little ones can never get enough about hearing how their grandfather brought emancipation to loads of slaves he could touch and feel in the night, but never see. Thank you.
Una y otra vez, una y otra vez, siempre volverás, aunque ya no sientas más amor por mí, solo un rencor. Yo tampoco tengo nada que sentir, y eso es peor, pero te extraño.
uncle was a freedom fighter and he taught us how to fight.
Say what?
We gon' fight all day and night until we get it right. What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? Shakur was a freedom fighter and she taught us how to fight.
Independent grassroots and transnational organization of young Palestinians and Arabs organizing for the dismantling of Zionism, the right of return, and the liberation of our homeland and all lands. It's crucial that today we're highlighting political prisoners. And we at PYM believe that prisoners are the compass of our movement. All Palestinians imprisoned on our lands are kidnapped from our people for the political agenda of the colonizers. They want to silence us and they want to squash our resistance. They're scared of us. The guard of the prison always believes that power ultimately relies in their hands. But if they were so powerful, they would not keep our people, our men, our women, and even our children in cages. They are scared of our power and our strength. Their wish to keep all Palestinians in a cage that can be locked up forever and conveniently forgotten. Their wish is that we accept this cage. Their wish is that we can be fooled into believing the cage can be decorated. They even use cage masters who look like us, speak like us, and pretend to represent us. But we reject being caged, and we reject that our people be suggested to the literal cages of maximum security Israeli prisons. What the prison guard who want to cage us fail to understand is that the homeland is the Palestinian people. The homeland knows us and loves us, and the homeland opens its earth and its imprisoned children and leads them to the lands of our grandparents. We do not kindly request the freedom of our prisoners from the colonial cager. We demand their freedom. Even if it takes years, even if it requires digging with our bare hands, we demand freedom for all Palestinian prisoners now. One political prisoner who we currently have a campaign for, and if you go to our table at the end, you can sign the petition to release him, is Walid Dakka. Walid Dakka is a political revolutionary and an intellectual leader in the Palestinian National Liberation Movement. And despite being in prison for 37 years, he has contributed to the movement from behind bars. He wrote and published his book, The Searing of Consciousness, from prison, and it's widely known as a luminary piece of political literature. His prison sentence was scheduled to be complete in March 2023, but Zionist prison administration extended it, likely as a punishment for his intellectual leadership behind bars. In 2015, he was diagnosed with leukemia, and as a result of his leukemia, he was diagnosed last year with myelofibrosis, a rare form of bone cancer. Throughout his imprisonment, he's faced severe, it's so weird, I hear my voice over here, okay. He's faced severe medical negligence from Israeli prison authorities, including repeated delays in treatment and denial of an urgent bone marrow transplant, all of which has led to serious deterioration in his condition and overall health. He's been transferred to intensive care several times this year due to his further deteriorating health. But authorities always quickly transfer him back to his prison clinic without allowing him proper time for treatment. And any attempt to get him released due to his deteriorating condition have been rejected by Israel. Dakka's family has three main demands, and they're calling for his immediate release, for him to receive unrestricted treatment in a hospital where the necessary conditions are met with the success of his medical procedures, and he needs in the presence of family, and for an end to the medical blackout about his condition. And I also want to highlight there are currently 4 Palestinian prisoners on hunger strike who are protesting their administrative detention. And this administrative detention is when the Zionist entity illegally obtains Palestinians without cause and can hold them for up to 6 months and extend it at any time that they want. And Palestinians have to go through military courts and tribunals where 99% of the time they're convicted. And even something as small and as trivial as throwing a rock can lead to a 3-year prison sentence. And we see the same system here in the US. The criminal justice system is not meant to protect the masses. It's not built to eliminate what the state considers to be illegal. It's the executioner of the state. It imprisons those who pose a threat to the current systems which benefit very few and punish the masses. If it was really just, then everyone in Congress and the Senate would be in prison. Thank you.
So I want to first greet you all with an African word, uhuru. Uhuru means freedom. We believe that's something that all colonized and oppressed people should be concerned with. The freedom of their people, the freedom of the land, the freedom of their allies. So we out here today and we're talking about political prisoners, and it's very important that we do that as a part of the discussion. And we have that discussion when we also have to ask, what does it mean to have justice on stolen land, right? Because that is a part of the contradiction that it is very difficult for the U.S. Imperialist state to deal with. They are not the arbitrator of any justice. Any person that is locked up in jail as a consequence of disobeying laws put in place by a colonizing, slave master, indigenous people murdering a state has no legitimacy. And they all represent forms of political prisoners in this state. Don't give it any legitimacy. The fact that they will go out and take leaders and strugglers of our struggle to keep them away from the masses. As the comrade already said, the danger isn't to us. The danger is to the state. The fact is that the state even knows that the struggle ain't even around the question of guns, right, and military. It's first of all around the concept of ideas. Because if you legitimize what this state does to us, then you accept the oppression that they hand out. Maybe not to your individual self, but to somebody else. It's okay to oppress someone else. Maybe it's okay to oppress somebody whose land you stole 50, 60 years ago, or somebody's land you stole 300 years ago, or somebody's land you stole 500 years ago, but there's no justice in where there is stolen land. And the fact is, political prisoners exist because somebody always resists. Somebody always galvanizes a resistance against the slave master, against the colonizer, against the capitalist, against the boss. Somebody does that. That is the struggle that we're all engaged in. And it's not a struggle that's just simple about freeing a political prisoner. You're freeing your damn self when you get your leadership out of prison. You're showing the state that there's no quarter they will have to touch your movement when you defend your political prisoners. Because that's what it really comes down to. The fact is, if they really wanted to, they can make any political prisoner look like an accident. As a matter of fact, the African liberation movement in this country knows what it means when your political leadership is too dynamic. Because what they do is kill us in the most exemplary manner. Dr. King, who they would like to tell us is a minister of peace, bullet in his head. Malcolm X, gunshot wound to his chest in front of his family. The dozens and hundreds of political leaders who've been murdered in this country because it's untenable for that state to allow political dissent of that effectiveness. If they wanted to, they don't have to have any political prisoners. But they do that because they have to also make it very fearful for us to resist, to make it think that that could possibly happen to us if we stand up. But what happens to you every day when you don't stand up? You get evicted from your home. Your children are miseducated. Police run through your neighborhoods like they own the land, right? You can't find the means to feed yourself. These are the parts of the contradictions that you also have to deal with, because if you don't organize, if you don't resist, then you also have to suffer the consequence of an imperialist state. I want to raise that because I think it's really important. We have the Palestinian youth organization here today. It's a critical part of the question that we have, because they will try to tell us that the struggle there is about upholding Israel, right? Because they know one thing that they don't want you to know. If you can uphold the theft of land 60, 70 years ago in Israel, then you can uphold the theft of land here in America. This is not a legitimate state. This is a state that was stolen through genocide, through slavery, right? That is what this is. There's no respect for it. If you can uphold Israel, then you can uphold the United States. If you can uphold imperialism, colonialism, and neocolonialism anywhere in the world, you legitimize the fact that the United States can exist. That's why we're doing it. We have to make these connections to advance our own struggle as much as the struggles of the other people who are struggling for. It's an important question about our humanity. You can't look at oppressed people anywhere in the world and think, well, that's their problem. Because the oppression that can be done there is necessary to control you here. That is the struggle. It's an interconnected struggle. And I want to also just thank you all for being here. We got more work to do. We got relationships to build. We got education to do with each other. Let's do that. Uhuru.